Sorry for the wait, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Nonetheless, going to be happy to go through and check out some Dynasty Fantasy Football teams, of course. Doing this pretty much every single day. Really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. As always, drop a like on this live stream. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you want to get your roster broken down on a live stream like this, find the link to flockfantasy.com down there in the description, in the live chat, in the comment section. Go sign up for flockfantasy.com. Use promo code FLOCK to get 30% off any subscription. Premium content of all your favorite Dynasty creators, including rankings, plus your roster getting broken down by yours truly on a live stream like this. But let's go ahead and let's dive into our first team here. This one coming out from Butters, who says 12-team, 1 quarterback, full PPR, no tight end premium. Just finished our rookie draft. Ended up getting 3rd place last year. Tight end is the glaring hole in our roster. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks. So thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Let's pull this team up here. Starting off at quarterback, we have Mahomes. There's not too much to talk about. Obviously, when we have Patrick Mahomes, we are just at such an advantage over the rest of the field. And the reason there's not much to talk about is, I mean, hell, at the end of the day, it's a 1 quarterback format. Doesn't really matter too much in the first place. We have Jordan Love down there, QB2. Jordan Love, great quarterback 2 to have almost regardless of the format, regardless of the team. I'd say definitely if he has a lower floor when we don't really know who Jordan Love is, we don't really know exactly what we should expect. Probably a little bit of a better spot, right, to be having him in a 1 quarterback format rather than a super flex. But nonetheless, not too much to talk about. We have Mahomes. Going down to the tax squad, we have Levis, just a pure upside shot. Doesn't really matter. Now, going over to running back, this is where we all of a sudden have to start actually caring about what we have on this team. Currently sitting with Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker in the starting lineup. We have Ramondre Stevenson down there in a flex spot. Now, these running backs are interesting, right? In that I don't necessarily think any of these running backs will increase in Dynasty Fantasy Football value from today to next offseason. Like, I think that their value is kind of locked in. And at this point, I think you would classify almost, I don't want to say all these running backs because obviously Kenneth Walker's so damn young just going into year 2. But I would say that all these running backs, you're locking in their production and that's what's valuable. Now, it's a very interesting case, right? That this isn't a team that's full of Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, even an Austin Eckler, that we're like, okay, yeah, we're going to be productive this year at the position, but then we're going to see a massive fall off. We're not going to see a fall off at the production of running back for the next few seasons. But at the same time, it's not necessarily like these are rebuilding pieces. These are definitely pieces that we want to be contending with in the short term. But if we are looking at this through a contending lens, right now, Jonathan Taylor, top 5 running back for this next season. You're looking at Ramondre Stevenson being drafted as a top 12 running back for this next year. So arguably, we have 2 running back 1s. We have Kenneth Walker as a solid running back 2. Going down to the bench, we have McKinnon as a depth piece. Don't really have too much outside of that. I mean, on the tax squad, we have Devon Achane, so maybe we can say, hell, I mean, if Jared McKinnon, Devon Achane are a running back 4, running back 5, we are going to be just fine. I will say, in general, I wouldn't mind seeing what we could get for Devon Achane. This is a running back that is less than 190 pounds, 190 pounds. It's a running back that has a BMI of 27.8. So I'm always interested to see what we could get for Achane in a swap, but it's not necessarily something that we have to do. He does fit the roster. The reason I'm just bringing this up now is I'm a little concerned that a lot of people are excited about him in Dynasty, given the fact that this is a player that projects to see opportunity this next year, but at the same time, you may end up getting Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook going over to Miami. So if the reason he has the kind of value that he currently does in Dynasty is because of this upcoming season's projection, maybe it's okay to look to go through and sell him. It's just going to depend on the package that we're looking at. I mean, he is a nice depth piece for a team that kind of needs the depth. I mean, at wide receiver, we have the top end talent as well. You have Chase, Garrett Wilson, both of whom are being drafted as top 10 wide receivers for this next year. Both of them are wide receiver 1s. And then obviously, for the long term, you're extremely excited. You have Metcalf as a high-end wide receiver 2 for this next season. Not expecting a fall off anytime soon. Going down to the bench, we have Elijah Moore, we have Christian Watson, so we have some more depth here as well. Overall, there's not too much to be discussing at wide receiver. I mean, I feel like we're in a really good spot. At tight end, we have David Njoku. Personally, one of my favorite discount tight ends to be getting. Really like targeting David Njoku, Evan Ingram with dynasty teams if we're going to get these guys at a discount, particularly in a league that doesn't have a tight end premium just like yours. Going down to the bench, we have Tyler Conklin as a tight end too, so maybe we could look to add in a tight end too, but it doesn't really matter. So overall, I think it's a very strong team, and there are very few things that we could say to make the adjustment with this roster. The only thing I think we would potentially look to do is maybe pivot off Devon Achane, dependent on the price point that we could be looking at. It's a well-constructed and a well-balanced team, so we don't necessarily have any particular holes that we need to be targeting, but maybe if we could go through and, say, package together Elijah Moore and Devon Achane, and then all of a sudden get a wide receiver we're more excited about for the long term. If we can turn that into, say, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, I think that is a possible deal that could make a lot of sense. I mean, outside of that, if we were looking at making any other potential moves, I mean, there's not much. I'm not a big Ramondre Stevenson guy, but at the end of the day, if you are, it's completely fine. I mean, I would be interested to see if we could possibly, maybe look to send out Devon Achane with like Kenneth Walker and get a running back upgrade that way. Like we could go Walker and Achane and go instead and bring in like Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne. I think that could possibly be exciting with the addition of Zach Charbonnet over there in Seattle. It's not necessarily something that we have to do though. We're just spitballing ideas. I do kind of like having Walker and DK Metcalf and making that one consolidated bet on the Seattle Seahawks overall offense. God, what can we do with this team? I really like the roster. If we're looking at the future picks that we have as well, I mean, one thing that's interesting and noteworthy is we don't have our own 2024 first. Looks like instead we have the 2024 first round pick of someone else, which in my mind, pretty damn good spot if we're considering the fact that this is a team that looks to be contending this next season. So we can push to contend right away and we can push to win right now, while at the same time not sacrificing the ability to get a high rookie pick in next year's draft, depending on where that pick lies. So very rarely do I like the move of going through and trading away, say, our future first, and then having a first round pick from a different team, right? Generally, that's something I'm looking to avoid because while it will raise your ceiling on the range of outcomes with what we could be looking at 12 months from now, it will also severely lower your floor if you are like a fake contender, right? Like if you're a fake contender and all of a sudden we're like, oh crap, I'm not going to win this year. I don't even have my own first round pick. I have some other contenders first. Usually that sucks, but hell, I'm very confident that this is a contending team top to bottom. So there's really no need to be concerned on that front. But I think that's all we have for you. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. As always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Be super happy to help you out in any way that I can. And yeah, just keep me posted if there's anything I can do for you, my friend. Great team. And as always, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. But real quick, we have a question coming out from Topper says, need a roster review. How do I get one? Thank you, my friend. So first thing is obviously make sure you're a member of flockfantasy.com, signed up with promo code FLOCK with the Mother Flocker tier. I'm assuming you already did that if you're asking this question. And once you do that, essentially you just join our Discord, then go over to the join here section of the Discord under setup, send your Flock Fantasy username in that join here section, and then give the developers about a day or two to go through and link your Discord and your Flock Fantasy account. And by linking those, it will unlock the roster submissions tab for you. And you just send it in there, my friend. I'll either go through and cover it on a live stream if you want me to do that. I can do a personalized podcast if you want me to do that. But regardless, whenever it's done, I'll be sending you a link wherever it is. DM'd through Discord to make sure you don't miss it, my friend. But hopefully that clears any confusion up. But going over to our next team, looking at Chaffee here. Thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my friend, saying, hey, Mason, first screenshot is a team I inherited in a 10-team tight end premium super flex 4-point passing touchdown league 2 weeks ago. Second screenshot is what we've done with it along with the trades to get here. I felt like the team was too old to compete and had no depth, so needed a full rebuild, but without our own 2024 first. I felt like I couldn't cash in on any of the assets that didn't fit our team's timeline. I didn't love the Josh Allen trade, but felt like it had to be done to safely pull the pin on my team and that it would open things up to sell other players. Ultimately, my goal this year is to get the 101 for Caleb Williams next season. And I think I've done a good job at putting that at play with maybe the worst top to bottom roster I've ever put together. Would love to hear your thoughts as what we've done with the place. Would love to know what we should be looking at going forward and some pieces that I could be looking to add for the cheap that could pay off. Love the content. Thank you so much, my friend, for hanging out with us and being a member of the vlog. Going to be really happy to go through and look at this top to bottom. Okay, so this first screenshot, this is the team that we had, right? So this is when we decide, yep, we are not going to be able to contend this next season. We need to go through and burn this down. So we have Josh Allen at quarterback. I mean, solid piece. We have Tyreek at wide receiver, solid piece. Keenan Allen, good for this year, not in the long term. Mixon, decent this year, not in the long term. Rodgers, decent this year, not in the long term. Yeah, you are 100% right to go through and burn this roster to the ground. We do have Kyle Pitts, which is nice to see. But yeah, we don't have our own 2024 first either. So one thing that I just want to put a quick little PSA out there. Everybody, you do not have to take over an orphan team. This is one thing that I see a lot of people do, and they go, okay, well, I want to challenge myself. I want to go ahead and I want to take over this team that has no real business at contending this year. We don't have too many long-term assets. I want to turn nothing into something. That's a thought process a lot of people have. And in reality, if you are not getting a discount with the team, or if you do not know the people in the league and you really want to play with them in particular, you can always sit that one out. You can always go through, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll look for the next startup. Okay, that's just a quick little PSA. Hopefully we got a discount on this team. Hopefully it was like half off or something. But going over to our current roster, let's actually not even do that yet. Let's look at that in 1 second. I think that will be exciting to look at. But instead, I would rather pull up these individual trades to see what we got. Okay, so keep in mind, yes, this Josh Allen trade is bad. He already knows it. He already said it. The Allen trade is bad. You should be looking for significantly more in return if we are selling Josh Allen. But at the same time, if you are looking at that 2024 first, that is going to be Caleb Williams. He got his own first-round pick in return. He had to overpay to get it, but nonetheless, essentially locking Caleb Williams in here. Now, at the same time, would I rather have Caleb Williams and the 105, so presumably maybe like CJ Stroud or Josh Allen? Give me Josh Allen. So just like you were saying, I definitely think it's not a great spot in terms of the price point that we had, but I want to see the rest of the deals. Okay. So now our next one, we are going to be looking at selling Rodgers and Tyreek, both assets on the clear decline. In the 204, doesn't really matter. For Jahan Dotson, the 108, and a future first. So if we are looking at, say, Rodgers versus Dotson, completely understand making that swap on a rebuilding team. Tyreek Hill versus the 108 and a future first. Hell, this is, say, Quentin Johnston and a random first in 2024. I think it is a fair price point to make the pivot, and I think that we probably are fine getting away with that. Now, going over to our next one, we sold Keenan Allen for nothing. We sold Mixon and the 106 to move up to the 102. I really like this deal. Out of all the trades you made, this one, in my mind, is my favorite. But let's go ahead and let's actually pull up what the current roster looks like. So with the 102, I'm assuming we were able to go through and grab Anthony Richardson. Now, we still have Dalvin Cook to sell. I'm assuming that we're probably waiting to see if Dalvin Cook gets sent to Miami and then look to sell then. Or maybe if the season starts and he's still there in Minnesota and we're able to sell him then. At some point, we're going to be selling Dalvin Cook. Some point, we're going to sell Damian Harris whenever we get the opportunity. At some point, we're going to sell Evan Ingram. At some point, we're going to sell Alexander Mattison. What we're really hoping to do with this team is we're really hoping to see, say, Dalvin Cook get traded to the Miami Dolphins and be able to sell high on Dalvin Cook there and then also be able to sell high on Alexander Mattison. That would be phenomenal. Now, going down to the bench, see if there are any other players that we're still going to be looking to move off of. No, it looks like we did a good job of getting everybody else off this team. So, the cornerstone assets that we have to play around with going into the future include Anthony Richardson, Kyle Pitts, Jahan Dotson, Jordan Addison, Bryce Young, Roshan, maybe pops, most likely not. And I'm a Roshan fan, so I feel like we're being fair when we say that. Josh Downs, hopefully pops, most likely not, but I'm a Josh Downs fan. We have our 2024 first, which will be Caleb Williams, and we will have another random 2024 first with this team. I think that this is a team that definitely has potential, and I think that in the long term, with the cornerstone assets we are currently looking at, we can eventually be competitive. But at the same time, I really don't see this team being competitive in 2024 either, if we're going to be honest. Like in 2024, yeah, we'll be in a decent spot in that you do have Bryce Young, Jordan Addison, Anthony Richardson all going into year 2. We add in Caleb Williams, who maybe is going to just give us a trifecta of cornerstone quarterbacks to build around, or we possibly sell the 101 next offseason almost regardless. But almost regardless, we will be in a spot that we're probably going to want to be playing for 2025 as well. And for that reason, I am going to continue to look to sell every one of these veterans that we can. And of course, priority is 2024 picks. But say we can't sell Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison as a package for a 2024 first, but somehow, some way, we found someone that will give us a 2025 first right now for him, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make that swap. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start accumulating 2025 picks. Because I don't think it's a horrible idea to try to put ourselves in the position during the 101 in the next 2 years. In 2024 and in 2025. And then in that 2025 season, having a truly dominant team. But I do think that we should be looking at a spot where you're selling almost any veteran you can. Oh, I see you're out here. Love to see it, my friend says. So you're okay with selling Madison too. He's young, but don't know if he fits in my timeline. 100% we're selling Madison. I don't necessarily think that you have to sell him right now, of course. I think that's going to be up to you personally. If you believe Dalvin Cook is not a Minnesota Viking this next year and you think that Alexander Mattison does see a spike in overall value, then yes, we'll be looking to sell Alexander Mattison at that point. If you think Dalvin Cook is still going to be playing in Minnesota, you don't think we're going to see the spike in value when it comes to Alexander Mattison, then I think you just look to go ahead and you sell Alexander Mattison now. But essentially, if you're looking at a rebuilding roster where we're trying to get to 101, it really doesn't matter the age of the running back. Unless they are legitimately a rookie running back, they are a sell. If you are looking at running backs, particularly once they get past year 1, year 2, especially past year 3, the majority of their fantasy football value is not necessarily derived on the promise of their talent. The majority of their value in fantasy football drafts is derived based off their projected opportunity. So if you're looking at Madison, someone that I've been drafting a lot in underdog drafts right now, but the main reason I'm drafting him is not because I think Alexander Mattison is some great long-term talent for our team. The reason I'm drafting him is I think he can have a sneaky amount of opportunity this next season. And if we're playing for 2024, if we're playing for 2025, regardless of whatever it may be, that opportunity is far from guaranteed at the running back position. So to be honest with you, there is not a single running back on this team that I do not think is on the chopping block, that I do not think we should be going through and looking to see what we can get in terms of future draft capital. Now, I do not want to be selling these running backs and just trying to get younger at the running back position. In reality, I would prefer just almost going through and completely punting running back. In reality, I'd probably rather just go ahead and trade away every one of these running backs that we have for future draft capital. It would lock us in the 101 for the next 2 years, which is the big thing that we're looking for. And a big thing as well is when we're looking at these running backs with their projections, the running back position is the one position where we can take a rookie and we can look to immediately compete with that player, that they can immediately step into opportunity and give us fantasy football production. So yeah, personally, I'm going to go ahead. I am going to look to make those moves if we can, my friend. Like I said, don't shy away from trading for 2025 picks either if we can't get 2024. 2024 is definitely number one priority, and that goes without being said. But that's just in case, like, we're trading with the contender and they go, hey, man, I already sold my 2024 first. Instead, will you take my 2025 first? Don't be picky. Get any future draft capital. Get anything that is guaranteed to continue to rise in value while at the same time not putting points in our starting lineup. So we are guaranteed to get that high rookie pick over the next few years. But yeah, you're saying no one is offering any 2024 first right now for Cook plus anyone else. But I figured most of my vets will increase in value for a contender midseason. Like I said, if you believe that they will pop off in value and you are a believer of those individual players, completely fine with that thought process and completely fine waiting until then. At the same time, you always run the risk of if we wait then and they are not producing, then say you could have sold Dalvin Cook for 2 future seconds, right? Then you may get zip for it. So it really does depend on your actual projections for those players in terms of what you think you can get with a pop in value during the season. But I hope we are able to help there, my friend. Again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. As always, if there's anything I can do for you, my man, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm still going to send you this as a DM after this, even though you were in the live stream hanging out with us here, just in case you want to ever revisit this live stream again. But thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my friend. And I know we emailed a little bit back and forth about getting you a flock shirt earlier. Hopefully I was able to clear up anything there as well. But thank you again so much for everything. But let's go over, and we have a donation question coming out from Chris real quick. Thank you, my friend. Says, what do we do with Najee Harris? In my mind, if you're a contender, Najee Harris is a clear hold. Now, to be realistic with Najee Harris, the man's like the same age as Josh Jacobs. So you're not looking to hold on to to Najee Harris if you're a rebuilding roster. But if you're a contending team, I think so many people are off of Najee. At this point, he's probably a strong value. Okay. Now, going over to our next team here, we're going to be looking at Jarrett Jack. Thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock, saying, hey, Mason, been following the flock the last 3 seasons and have 2 championships to show across a few leagues. Rookie draft this weekend and need some advice on who to take, plus what roster moves could be nice. This is a 10-team PPR, 1 quarterback league. We have the 3rd overall pick, and I know Bijan will go 1, JSN will go 2. I don't feel like I want to take Gibbs to tie myself down even more with the Lions, where we have St. Brown, Montgomery, and Jameson Williams all on the same roster, and not sure what we still need with running back when we have Walker, Dobbins, Mixon, White, and Hall. Slightly prefer Addison to Johnston. I also have the first 3 picks of the 2nd round. Thoughts on maybe sending my 103 for the 104 plus some extras. Okay. So first thing I do want to mention is going through and adding in multiple pieces of an individual offense to your roster. I understand, and trust me, I'm not a big Lions guy. Being worried of saying, okay, I may have too many pieces of this one offense. What if this one offense fails us this next season? I understand. It does open us up to have a very low floor where if the Detroit Lions come out and they turn into the Detroit Lions of old, and they go out there and they have a horrible offense, yes, our team can crater. But when we're correlated like that, not only will it lower our floor, but on the other hand, it's going to raise our ceiling. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, what happens if all of a sudden you have the Detroit Lions coming out and the Detroit Lions all of a sudden being a top 3 to 5 offense in the NFL? Not saying that's likely, not saying that's going to happen, but I do think it's somewhat in the range of outcomes. And if we put ourselves in the thought process of saying, okay, well, if that happens, you do turn into a league winner. So it's a little more nuanced. I don't think we should be trying to get every piece of every offense, but I'm going to be completely fine having multiple pieces of the same offense on our team. Now, one thing I do want to point out, otherwise, before we go into this team and what we're going to be doing with the rookie picks, will be the overall starting lineup requirements, where we're at 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. In this kind of league, we are highly incentivized to go studs and duds. In this league, depth is really not going to matter. And the main thing that we should be going through and targeting is just trying to get the highest ceiling possible. Because at the end of the day, a player like Brandon Ayuk, a player like DJ Moore, a player like Keenan Allen is really not going to move the needle in a league like this. And I hate to say it because, of course, you can find some of those guys that are hyper productive and provide a ton of value in another format where, say, you start 3 wide receivers and then 3 to 4 flex spots where we can start up to 6, 7 wide receivers. We love building around wide receiver depth. Here, nope, we want to go studs and duds. Quarterback, we have Justin Fields. In my mind, I think Justin Fields has a low ceiling in Dynasty for the long term. I think it is a non-0% chance that the Chicago Bears yet again find themselves with the top 5 pick in this next year's draft. And if that happens, I cannot guarantee that the Chicago Bears yet again decide to trade out. And instead, maybe they will go through and take a quarterback. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, we can say based off what you saw with Justin Fields and the overall fantasy football upside that he had running the ball last year in the improved offensive line in Chicago, plus the improved wide receiver core, Justin Fields has an incredibly high ceiling. So in my mind, the perfect spot to have Justin Fields is a 1 quarterback league. Love it. We have Justin Herbert as well, so obviously we're already locked and loaded at quarterback. Now going over to RB, we have Kenneth Walker, we have Dobbins. Going down to the bench, we have Joe Mixon, we have David Montgomery, we have Breece Hall. We have a whole lot of options. Like you literally have Mixon, Montgomery, Hall down there on the bench. But at the same time, really the only top end guy that we have is Breece Hall. So going back to what we were talking about previous, where depth doesn't really matter too much with this league, I would really try to go through and make a deal where we're selling like David Montgomery and Jameson Williams and getting a wide receiver upgrade, right? Like if we're able to go through and make that pivot or maybe sell Joe Mixon and Jameson Williams and get a wide receiver upgrade, I think that'd make a lot of sense just given the fact that, I mean, hell, we're going to even have to make some roster space when we add these rookies in. Going over to wide receiver, we have St. Brown, Chase, Keenan, Garrett Wilson in the starting lineup. Going down to the bench, we have Jameson Williams. So yeah, we don't have all the wide receiver depth in the world, but going back to what we were talking about previously, I mean, I definitely think we want to be going ahead and trying to take one of those depth running backs, package and upgrade at wide receiver, right? If you want to hold on to Jameson Williams and instead take one of those running backs such as David Montgomery and package him together with Keenan Allen to go try to get an upgrade at wide receiver that way, then let's go ahead and let's do it. Let's try to sell, like, say, going back to that Jameson and Montgomery example, let's go try to get Christian Watson, someone of that caliber. Now, going over to tight ends, we're currently sitting with Frymuth as well as David Njoku. 2 of my favorite tight ends in fantasy for the current price that they are at. Love it. Now, I understand you were saying at pick 3, you really don't want to be taking Jahmyr Gibbs if he falls. Jahmyr Gibbs will be by far and away the best pick there. I do not want to trade back from pick 3 to 4 to get Jordan Addison and pick up a couple extra pieces. It's the exact opposite of a deal that I'm trying to do, to be honest. In this kind of league, I'm trying to move up in rookie drafts. I'm trying to sell the secondary piece and get a higher draft pick. I don't want to be moving back. We already have more than enough depth. So I honestly would be looking to take like Jahmyr Gibbs here at pick 3 if you think Gibbs is going to fall to you. Now, going back to what we were talking about previously with all this running back depth, I am still standing by and extremely convicted to be trying to sell some of these bench running backs, such as Mixon in a package with Jameson Williams, such as Montgomery in a package with Keenan Allen. I mean, that even is exaggerated if we are able to go through, if we're able to get Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 3. Now, in terms of what we're going to be looking at in the second round there, particularly because this is a league that at the end of the day, I mean, we aren't necessarily in a spot where that second round value is going to make sense for us to add on. We don't care about depth. It's a 1 quarterback format. So who the hell are we going to be looking at there? I would much prefer using those second rounders as trade assets to go through and say, clear a couple deals. Like if we were sitting there and we were offering that guy, David Montgomery, as well as Jameson Williams for Christian Watson, he was going, man, it's close. You know, yeah, just give me some time to think about it, blah, blah, blah. Just go ahead and be like, hey, man, I'll give you the 2-1. I'll take the first pick in the second round. Let's get this deal done. Because in reality, we already have more than enough depth to go around with this team. And, I mean, when we're talking about going through and trading away that depth running back with a depth wide receiver to get an upgrade at the wide receiver position, you can kind of replace the names that we're saying with anybody, right? Like if instead you don't want to trade away David Montgomery, you can't get the strong value you're looking for, go and look to see what we can get for Dobbins. You know, it's not necessarily like I'm sitting here and saying, oh, I hate David Montgomery, I hate Joe Mixon, we need to sell that player. It's more so we're sitting here and saying, okay, this is the overall structure of a deal that I think would make this team better specifically for the format that we are playing in. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. And as always, if there is anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be super happy to help you out in any way that I can, my friend. But yeah, crazy that you've been a member of the flock for so long now. Thank you so much for everything. Really do hope you have a great day. Really do. Now, I think that's all we have for this live stream. Again, thank you so much for everybody hanging out with us. As always, if you want to get your roster broken down, do that on flockfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code FLOCK. That way you're going to get 30% off any subscription. And on top of that, yours truly will go through and break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football roster for you. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day. And really hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow.